The latest weaponry is being brought to Beijing. According to Bloomberg, during the parade on September 3rd, China will showcase missiles capable of reaching U.S. territory. Based on analysis of satellite images, Beijing has prepared to display anti-ship missiles, combat drones, and nuclear-capable ballistic missiles. According to the publication, China is developing hypersonic missiles at maximum speed. These missiles are so fast and maneuverable that modern defense systems cannot intercept them in time. This is one of the main areas of competition between the US, China, and Russia. Meanwhile, several media outlets report that Putin will make a 4-day visit to the People's Republic of China. There, he will participate in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit. In June, Yuri Ushakov, an aide to the Russian dictator, reported that Putin's trip to China would last from August 31 to September 3rd. US President Donald Trump spoke about his plans to meet with the leader of China. He stated that he had recently spoken with Xijinping and added that he is considering a trip to China as part of negotiations on trade terms between the two countries.
At some point in the near future, probably this year or very soon after, we will definitely go to the country of China.
Trump also stated that the US and China will have excellent relations, although he warned that if he wanted to, he could destroy China by playing the incredible cards at his disposal. In April of this year, Donald Trump announced an increase in tariffs on Chinese goods to 145%, which led to retaliatory measures from Beijing. Thus, China raised tariffs on American goods from 34% to 125%. This led to a sharp decline in production in China and a drop in markets due to decreased demand. As a result, the US and China reached an agreement on a 90-day pause on some of the mutual tariffs, which began on May 14, 2025. This temporary suspension and reduction of tariffs is an attempt to ease the trade war and reduce the trade balance deficit between the two countries. Also, according to the latest information, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Guoqun denied reports that China is ready to send a peacekeeping contingent to Ukraine under a UN mandate.
Flamingo and longneptune are a tandem of Ukrainian missiles that pose a real threat to both the near and deep rear of the aggressor country Russia. This was reported by military expert Alexander Kovalenko. Thus, in August, Ukraine presented 2 subsonic cruise missiles at once. First, the Flamingo missile was showcased, and literally right before Independence Day, a modified and improved version of the R-360 longneptune was presented. These are significant trump cards in the dispute with Russia, which continues to issue ultimatums. As of today, the Flamingo is, by its characteristics, the best subsonic cruise missile in the world. It surpasses not only the Russian Kh-101, Kh-55 Kaliber, and Iskander-K missiles, but also the American Tomahawk. It is superior in terms of target engagement range, warhead mass, and also in several other parameters that none of the critics have mentioned. For example, its flight range is 3,000 kilometers, its maximum speed is 950 kilometers per hour, and its cruising speed is between 850 and 900 kilometers per hour. The warhead weighs between 1,000 and 1,150 kilograms. The guidance system is combined, including satellite, electronic warfare resistant, and inertial systems. The thing is, the Flamingo is essentially a mobilization missile. It is produced quickly in large quantities and is relatively inexpensive. Exactly what is needed in the context of a dynamic and extremely aggressive war of attrition. The second undeniable advantage of the Flamingo is its land-based launch platform. This is a surface-to-surface missile, which makes it difficult to detect an upcoming launch and to track the missile once it has been fired. At the same time, the longneptune is a more versatile weapon, which in the future will be able to pose a threat to the enemy not only from land, but also from sea and air. This missile was originally designed to strike not only surface targets but also land targets, which it demonstrated perfectly in 2023 when it destroyed the Russian S-400 complex at Cape Tarkankut. In recent days, Ukraine has struck 10 Russian oil refineries with drones, disabling about 17% of their capacity. That's more than 1 million barrels of processing per day, according to Reuters. According to the agency, Ukraine carried out a series of massive drone attacks on oil refineries in the Russian Federation, managing to reduce their capacity by almost a fifth within 30 days. Thus, Kyiv may improve its negotiating position in an attempt to end the war. It is noted that Kyiv struck both refineries and Moscow's export infrastructure, demonstrating to Washington its ability to resist. As a result of the attacks, there has been a gasoline shortage in Russia, particularly in the temporarily occupied Crimea, as well as in the south of the Russian Federation and the Far East, where lines have formed at gas stations and drivers are complaining about rising prices and a shortage of A95 gasoline.
I came to the gas station to fill up. They say they're out of gasoline. Now they're only giving it out with coupons. What do you mean with coupons? What's going on? Have we gone back to the Soviet Union?
Over the past few weeks, Ukraine has struck a number of refineries. The Volgograd Lukoil refinery, Ryazan Rosneft, and plants in the Rostov, Samara, Saratov, and Krasnodar regions have all come under attack. The Novoshakhtinsk refinery burned for a week.
That's the situation we woke up to this morning. And all of this is because of the oil refinery.
Meanwhile, drones struck the Druzhba oil pipeline in the Bryansk region, as well as the export terminal and the Novatek fuel processing complex in Ust-Luga, Leningrad region. At the beginning of August, there was a raid on the Afipsky refinery in the Krasnodar region of Russia. OSINT believes that the UAVs hit the gas and gas condensate joint processing unit. Russia will face serious consequences if the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin does not agree to meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, said US President Donald Trump.
The consequences could be very serious because the war in Ukraine must end.
However, the American president did not specify what those consequences might be. Trump also stated that the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin does not want to meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy because he doesn't like him.
Because he doesn't like him, he doesn't care for him. There are people I don't like. I don't like meeting with them.
Trump added that Zelenskyy doesn't like Putin either. As is known, after the summit in Washington, US President Donald Trump suggested that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Russian dictator Vladimir Putin hold a bilateral meeting. According to media reports, the Kremlin proposed holding talks in Moscow, but Zelenskyy refused. The White House in turn considered Budapest as an alternative. However, there is no official confirmation of this yet. The president of Ukraine stated that a meeting with Putin should take place only on neutral territory in Europe, for example, in Austria or Switzerland. He also does not rule out the possibility of holding talks in Turkey. At the same time, the Russian Foreign Ministry reported that Putin is allegedly ready to meet with the Ukrainian president only if all issues requiring discussion at the highest level are thoroughly prepared. The Russian Federation also stated that Ukraine and Russia have not yet moved closer to holding a summit at the highest level. A meeting between Zelenskyy and Putin is only possible when both sides agree on the agenda. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian president is convinced that the Russians are doing everything to prevent the meeting from taking place. Meanwhile, Donald Trump stated that the United States is studying the experience of using drones in the war in Ukraine.
This is the biggest event in the history of military affairs. This is a completely new form of warfare. This is a drone war, something that has never existed before, and we are studying it. Pete Hegseth and everyone else, we are studying it, and we are studying it very closely. This is a completely new form of war, but it is a brutal war.
On August 21st, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy announced that Ukraine had prepared and proposed to the United States a drone agreement worth $50 billion for a period of 5 years. On July 16th, Zelenskyy reported that Trump had informed him of Washington's desire to purchase Ukrainian drones. During Donald Trump's trip to Scotland and his recent public appearances, attention was once again drawn to his right hand, which he constantly tries to conceal with makeup. The 79-year-old president is not hiding his bruises for the first time. According to the White House, they appeared due to the large number of handshakes and his use of aspirin. For example, in February 2025, during the visit of French President Emmanuel Macron to the White House, Trump was seen with a large hematoma on the back of his right hand. In July, during the FIFA Club World Cup final, his swollen ankles drew attention. And they were noticed again during a meeting with Vladimir Putin in Alaska on August 15th. On August 22nd in Washington, during a speech at the People's House exhibition, Trump tried to hide his hand by folding it with his left, but during his address in the Oval Office, the bright layer of makeup was still conspicuous. In July 2025, a medical report confirmed the US president has chronic venous insufficiency, a common condition among older people in which the veins are less effective at circulating blood. The president's doctor noted that the bruises are minor and typical for those who take aspirin as a preventive measure against cardiovascular diseases. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has repeatedly assured that Trump remains in excellent health and his dedication to his work is evident every day. As is well known, the press and the public closely monitor the appearance and any changes in the looks of famous figures. For example, at one point, a bruise was noticed on the back of Queen Elizabeth II of the United Kingdom's hand. Queen Elizabeth II died at the age of 96 on September 8, 2022. The Queen's death certificate stated that she died of old age. Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said that he met with the Queen a few days before her death and had known about her condition for over a year, naming the diagnosis as bone cancer.
Belgium has expressed its readiness to join a peacekeeping mission in Ukraine as soon as a decision on a ceasefire is made. This was stated by Belgian Foreign Minister Maxime Prévost during his visit to Odessa.
When a decision on a ceasefire is made, we are ready to participate in international forces with an international mandate. Then I will discuss this with the government and especially with my colleague, the Minister of Defense, to determine exactly what kind of military contribution we can make. But we are ready to join such peacekeeping forces when it becomes necessary.
The Belgian foreign minister also stated that the country will deliver F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine next month. Let us recall that the United Kingdom remains ready to consider the possibility of deploying troops to Ukraine in the event of a peace agreement with the aggressor, the Russian Federation. Earlier, Bloomberg reported that about 10 countries have expressed their willingness to send their troops to Ukraine. French President Emmanuel Macron stated that the British, French, Germans, Turks and others are ready to carry out operations not on the front lines, not provocatively, but operations to ensure security in the air, at sea and on land. US President Donald Trump and European leaders have agreed that the head of the US State Department, Marco Rubio, will lead a working group consisting of national security advisors and NATO representatives, which will develop security guarantees for Ukraine. At the same time, the US will not send its own troops to Ukraine, but is ready to provide air support to European countries that have expressed a desire to send their military personnel to Ukraine as a security guarantee.